Dritson, let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys, more like the Dallas Can't Boys, if you know what I mean. They fall below 500 today, losing in a oddly close one with the Ravens where it shouldn't have been.
Right.
But they look like a terrible team, and Jerry Jones just simply can't afford Derrick Henry is what he said. So, did you hear that, by the way?
No.
That's what he said in one of the interviews after the game. He just couldn't afford Derrick Henry. Don't know what the question was to that, but the fact that he even said that period was
They asked him what he had for breakfast this morning, and he said, I can't afford Derrick Henry. Get off my back.
Let's talk about the Cowboys a little bit, though. To you, they're below 500 right now. They look like a terrible team. They can't run the ball. They have awful run defense. They have penalties. They like to play catch up in the fourth quarter, and that's how they play games close. Is it time to be worried? Are you sounding the alarm? Is it time to ring the 5-alarm fire bell?
It's funny, like, it feels like most of our segments tonight, and I didn't mean to do this, is like, are you worried about this team? Well, hold on. Are you worried about this team? But that's what these guys are giving us. It's like you kind of are concerned. The main thing for me about Dallas, one, I had them missing the playoffs this year because they didn't do anything the offseason because they couldn't afford anybody, I guess. And they kind of couldn't because they didn't re-sign Dak before the season. They waited till during the season. Well, not trying to retread that. Everything they do is stupid. The Cowboys just aren't good enough to make a deep playoff run. They don't have a running back. Derrick Henry was on the market. Derrick Henry said on the Rich Eisen show, you can go listen to the interview, they never called him. Dallas never even reached out to Derrick Henry. How crazy.
Because Jerry Jones couldn't afford him.
Yeah, apparently not.
But we found that out.
He was too busy going live with Jamie Foxx. Two big points of contingency for the Cowboys that I am worried for sure. Well, I'm not worried because I expected it, but Cowboys fans and the team should be worried. Their rush defense is terrible. I mean, this is basically 3 weeks in a row they're just getting gashed in the run game. Derrick Henry, 151 yards. Lamar Jackson, 87 yards. Justice Hill, 33 yards. Hell, somehow Zay Flowers had 3 yards rushing, and that was an accident. He was trying to get to the sideline. You pair a horrible rush defense with a non-existent rush offense. Rico Dowdle, 8 carries, 32 yards. Zeke Elliott, 3 for 6 yards. Deuce Vaughn, 2 for 5. They're just such a one-dimensional football team. The defense is not as good as it has been in years past. It has been exposed, and Dak Prescott has to throw it 51 times. Now, they almost got back in the football game because the Ravens just cannot put a football game away in the fourth quarter. They just can't. They refuse to do it. That's the only reason. The Ravens kind of let them claw back into it. But Ryan, they can't beat, the Cowboys can't beat good football teams like this. You cannot fail to run the ball, fail to stop the run, as you said in an earlier segment, especially this year, and be a real contender. You can't.
Yeah, you want to know how to win against the Dallas Cowboys? You just run the ball. That's all.
They're going to let you.
Ball. They will. Hey, right this way, guys. Come on, the touchdown's this way. I'll flip this around and not sound so negative about being worried about every team, right? So I'll pose this question to you, maybe to make it sound a little more enlightening. What do you do? First off, put on your hat. Put on your head coach hat, because I'm about to ask you a really serious question. Become Mike McCarthy. Get in tune with your McCarthy-ness, okay?
Okay.
Are you there?
I'm there.
All right. Week 4. What do you do to fix your deficiencies on the offensive and defensive side of the ball?
I don't have the answer to that question. Yeah, I turn in the towel. I'm not an all-22 guy. You know, I will go and watch it, but I don't want the in the weeds. I just want from like 50,000 feet above. What do you think they need to do? I think we have to, first and foremost, I mean, not to repeat the topic, we have to stop the run. Ryan, they are worst rush defense in the league. They are allowing 185 yards a game. That's worse than the league.
Jeez.
Next, Colts, Rams, Falcons. That is unbelievable. They've allowed 557 rushing yards on the year. This team is terrible.
And by the way, those 3 teams have 3 of the best running backs in the league right now.
Exactly. So I don't know. We can't have, if I'm running the Cowboys, again, this is without going back and watching the tape of the Baltimore game. We can't ask Dak to throw it 50 times a game. Whatever, if we have to try to go trade for someone, we have to go trade for a running back. We have to come up with some kind of better defensive scheme, whether we have to run a bear front, put 5 guys in the front and just let people beat us over the top. I don't know. You have to cut this down because it's not sustainable. And we can't keep drives alive when we have to throw. So you could almost live with the bad rush defense if you could at least run the ball. But when you can't extend drives and really wear defenses down, it just bounces back and hurts you both ways, man. And on top of that, you don't have a lot of receivers you can count on. There was one ball that Dak threw that was a perfect touchdown pass to Brandon Cooks, and he just dropped it. All of these problems for the Cowboys really, to me, go back to the offseason and not bring in enough players. I just don't think they have a good enough roster to compete with the top dogs in the league.
Yeah, their depth is really bad too, especially on their interior defensive line. That's where it's really lacking. But I do think that it's also easy to run on a defense that's gassed because your offense can't find a way to stay out there long.
That's exactly right.
So it goes hand in hand. I think they need to figure out this run game because they've been doing this weird timeshare between Elliott and Dowdle, and neither one of the guys are getting comfortable being the guy. Every other team that does a split backfield, you typically have a number one and then you have a number two. There's no number one here in Dallas. Like, I know you can say that it's Elliott, but is he really a number one at this point in the year? No. There's no number ones on the field. There's a whole lot of number two, if you know what I mean. But there's no number ones. There's a problem in the run game. I don't even think Dak's the biggest problem this year. And I'm usually hard on Dak. I don't think Dak's the biggest problem. I think he's doing as best as he can. I mean, he's hitting guys in the hands with the ball. That's what you'd have to ask out of a quarterback, right?
Yeah.
So I think that if the game's not on his shoulders as much, we would see a much better Dak.